The Stories of the Sky God, a bedtime story for adults. Settle in, dear listener, and let your breathing slow. Close your eyes if you wish, or let them rest softly on these words. Tonight, we travel back to a time before time had stories, to the golden age of the Akan people, when the world was silent of tales. Chapter 1. The World Without Stories. Picture, if you will, a world draped in twilight silence. The sun rose and set over the forests of what we now call Ghana, painting the sky in amber and rose, yet no one spoke of why the colors changed or what they meant. The Akan people, farmers, hunters, weavers, and smiths, worked through their days and rested through their nights, but something essential was missing. There were no bedtime stories for children, no cautionary tales for the foolish, no epic poems to remember the ancestors, no riddles to sharpen the mind during the long rains. The air itself felt heavier, as though waiting for something to break the monotony of pure existence. All stories, every proverb, every legend, every piece of wisdom wrapped in narrative, belonged to Nyame, the sky god. He kept them locked in a chest of beaten gold, hidden in his celestial palace beyond the clouds, far above the tallest silk cotton tree. Nyame was not cruel, but neither was he generous. The stories were his treasure, and he saw no reason to share them with the creatures below. The people didn't know what they were missing. How can you long for something you've never known? But there was one being who understood Anansi. Anansi the Spider was neither large nor fearsome. His body was small, his legs spindly, his voice thin as wind through grass. But his mind, his mind was vast as the forest and twice as tangled. He lived in the space between the earth and the lower branches, spinning his webs at dawn, catching his meals at dusk, and thinking always, always, always. One evening, as Anansi sat at the center of his web watching the sunset bleed into purple night, a thought seized him with such force that his 8 legs trembled. The world is too quiet. People need stories to understand themselves, stories to teach their children, stories to remember their dead, stories to laugh with and cry over, stories to make the darkness less dark. And then, more quietly, a second thought, and I should be the one to bring them. Was this selflessness or vanity? With Anansi, it was always both. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted his name spoken with reverence. But he also genuinely believed the world would be better with stories in it. So Anansi made his decision. He would climb to the sky and bargain with Nyame himself. Chapter 2. The Ascent. The next morning, as mist still clung to the forest floor, Anansi began his work. From the spinnerets at the base of his abdomen, he drew out a thread, not an ordinary thread for catching flies, but a thread of pure intention, shimmering like moonlight on water, strong as hope, and impossibly long. He anchored one end to the roots of the great silk cotton tree, the odum, whose branches were said to touch the edge of heaven. Then he began to climb. Up, up, up he went, past the canopy where parrots screamed their morning songs, past the layer where hawks circled on thermals, past the clouds themselves, which felt like a cool breath against his small body. The air grew thin. The world below became a patchwork of green and brown, threaded with silver rivers. Still he climbed. Hours became a day. A day became 2. Anansi did not stop. His legs ached. His thread grew taut. But determination is its own kind of strength, and Anansi had determination in abundance. Finally, on the third dawn of his climbing, he broke through a final veil of golden mist and found himself standing on a floor of polished cloudstone, before the gates of Nyame's palace. The palace was beyond description, or rather, it was every description at once. Its walls were built of solidified thunder. Its roof was thatched with lightning. Its pillars were carved from the bones of mountains. Everything glowed with an inner light, as though the sun itself had been woven into the architecture. Anansi, tiny and trembling but unbowed, walked through the gates. Chapter 3. The Bargain. Nyame sat upon a throne of pure sky, his form shifting between human and something far older. Sometimes a man with skin like polished mahogany, sometimes a column of light, sometimes a face in the clouds themselves. His eyes, when they fixed on Anansi, contained entire weather systems. "A spider," Nyame said, and his voice was thunder rolling over distant hills. "A spider comes before me. Speak, small one, before I mistake you for a speck of dust and sweep you away." Anansi bowed low, all 8 legs bending in perfect choreographed humility. Then he straightened and spoke clearly. "Great Nyame, sky god, master of wind and rain, keeper of the sun's path, I come to buy your stories." Silence. Then Nyame laughed. It was not a cruel laugh, but it was not kind either. It was the laugh of someone witnessing absurdity so complete it circles back to entertainment. "You?" Nyame said. "You wish to buy my stories? Little spider, do you know what you're asking? These are not trinkets. These are the very bones of meaning, the blood of understanding, the breath of wisdom. Kingdoms have crumbled for want of them. Heroes have died seeking them. And you, small, weak, insignificant, you think you can simply purchase them." "I do," Anansi said simply. Nyame leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. "Very well. I will name a price. Not gold. I have no need of gold. Not cattle or yams or palm wine. If you want my stories, bring me 4 impossible things. Bring me, first, Mamoboro, the hornets whose stings have killed elephants. Second, Onini, the python who has swallowed grown men whole. Third, Osibo, the leopard of the deep forest, whose claws can shred iron. And fourth, one of the Moesha, the invisible forest dwarfs who bring sorrow and madness to those who see them." Nyame sat back, satisfied. "Bring me these, and the stories are yours. Fail, and never return to my sight." Every creature in the celestial court went silent. Even the palace walls seemed to hold their breath. These were not merely difficult tasks. They were designed to be impossible. Nyame expected Anansi to slink away, defeated. Instead, Anansi bowed again and said, "I accept." And he descended back to earth to begin. Chapter 4. The Hornets. Anansi returned to the forest and sat for a long time on his web, thinking. His wife, Aso, found him there at noon, lost in thought. "Husband," she said, "you have that look. That look means you're about to do something clever or something foolish, and possibly both." Anansi told her of his bargain with Nyame. Aso listened, her own 8 eyes growing wider with each impossible task. "The hornets first," Anansi said. "But how? They are many, I am one. They are fierce, I am small. They can kill with their stings." Aso considered. Then she said, "What do all creatures fear?" "Death." Anansi guessed. "Before death, discomfort." "And what discomfort do hornets hate most?" "Rain." Anansi leaped up, all his legs dancing. "Rain. When it rains, hornets cannot fly properly. Their wings get heavy. They seek shelter." That very afternoon, Anansi prepared his trap. He found a large calabash gourd, the kind used for storing water, and filled it to the brim from a nearby stream. He cut a broad banana leaf and held it above his head like a small umbrella. Then he climbed to where the hornets had built their nest, a massive paper structure hanging from a high branch, humming with the sound of 1,000 angry wings. As he approached, Anansi began pouring water from the gourd onto his leaf umbrella, so that it cascaded down around him like rain. He called out in a voice filled with concern, "Oh, friends, brother and sister hornets, have you not heard? The great storm is coming. Already the rain begins. See how it falls." He poured more water, creating a convincing curtain of droplets. "Come quickly into my gourd," he cried. "It is dry and safe. Hurry, before the storm drowns you all." The hornets, seeing what appeared to be rain and hearing the urgency in Anansi's voice, made a collective decision. One by one, then in streams, then in a great humming cloud, they flew into the mouth of the gourd seeking shelter from the storm that did not exist. When the last hornet had entered, Anansi sealed the gourd with a tight-fitting lid and wrapped it in silk for good measure. Inside, the hornets buzzed in confusion, then in rage, but they were trapped. Anansi carried the sealed gourd to the base of his skythread and set it aside. One impossible task complete. 3 remaining. Let your shoulders relax, dear listener. Feel the weight of the day leaving your body. We continue. Chapter 5. The Python. The great python Onini was a legend in the forest. Longer than 6 men lying head to foot, thick as a palm trunk, with scales that gleamed like wet stones and eyes like amber moons. He could crush a buffalo in his coils. He had lived for so many years that some whispered he was the river itself, given flesh. Anansi found Onini sleeping in a sun-dappled clearing, his massive body coiled like a living sculpture. The sight alone would have made most creatures flee. But Anansi did not flee. He sat on a nearby rock and waited until the python's eyes opened. "Ah, Onini," Anansi said casually. "I was just settling an argument with my wife. Perhaps you could help." The python regarded him with ancient disinterest. "Speak, Spider." "My wife Aso claims you are the longest creature in all the forest. But I say this palm branch here," he gestured to a very long, very straight palm frond he'd prepared, "is longer than you. She insists you are longer. We have been arguing for hours." The python's eyes narrowed. Pride is a powerful thing, even for creatures who have lived 100 seasons. "I am certainly longer than a May palm branch," Onini said coldly. "Well," Anansi said, scratching his head thoughtfully, "there's only one way to settle it. Would you mind lying next to the branch so we can measure properly? Vanity overcame caution. The great python uncoiled himself and stretched out alongside the palm frond, extending himself to his full magnificent length. Indeed, he was longer than the branch by half a body length. You see, Onini said smugly. Him, Anansi said, walking along the python's length as though inspecting. But you keep moving slightly. Your head shifts here, your tail curves there. For a truly accurate measurement, we should tie you to the branch just at a few points, you understand, to keep everything perfectly straight. If you must, Onini sighed, bored now. Using strong vines, Anansi began wrapping the python to the palm branch, around the head, to keep it aligned, around the middle, to prevent curving, around the tail, for the most precise measurement. Only when the final knot was tied did Onini realize he could not move at all. His powerful muscles strained against the vines, but Anansi had woven the bindings with the skill of one who spends his life spinning. Anansi, the python roared. What treachery is this? Not treachery, Anansi said calmly, dragging the bound python toward his collection spot. Just cleverness. And my apologies, great Onini, but Nyame has requested your presence in the sky. The python cursed and struggled, but he was well and truly caught. 2 tasks complete. 2 remaining. Your breathing is steady now. Your mind is growing quiet. The story continues, gentle as night. Chapter 6. The Leopard. Your breathing is steady now. Your mind is growing quiet. The story continues, gentle as night. Osibo the leopard was the most feared hunter in the forest. His spots were like shadows dappled across gold. His claws could tear through wood. His jaws could crush bone. He was cunning, patient, and utterly ruthless. Many hunters had sought him. None had returned. Anansi knew he could not fight Osibo. He could not outrun him. He could not even hide from him successfully. Leopards could smell spiders from 100 paces. So Anansi did what Anansi did best. He changed the game entirely. He found Osibo's favorite hunting path, a narrow trail through dense undergrowth where the leopard stalked antelope at dusk. Along this path, Anansi dug a pit, deep as 2 men are tall, with walls of packed earth, smooth as river stones. He covered the pit with branches and leaves, creating a false floor that looked exactly like the rest of the forest path. Then he waited in a nearby tree. That evening, as the sun bled red through the canopy, Osibo came padding down his trail. His golden eyes scanned the shadows. His ears swiveled at every sound. But he did not look down. Not until the false floor collapsed beneath him and he plunged into darkness with a furious yowl. Anansi scurried to the edge and peered down. Osibo glared up at him, pacing the bottom of the pit, growling like distant thunder. "Oh, noble Osibo!" Anansi called down, his voice dripping with false concern. "What misfortune? Here, let me help you out." "Help me!" Osibo snarled. "You dug this pit, Spider. Your scent is all over it." Now, Anansi said soothingly. "Accidents happen. But look, I have a solution." He found a young, flexible tree nearby and bent it over the pit, tying its top to a stake on the far side so it formed a curved bridge. Climb up the tree, Anansi instructed. Use your mighty claws. I'll hold this rope to keep it steady. Osibo, desperate to escape and not thinking clearly in his rage, began to climb the bent tree. His powerful claws dug into bark as he hauled himself upward. The moment the leopard reached the top of the arc, Anansi cut the rope. The tree snapped upright with tremendous force. Osibo was flung through the air, tumbling and yowling, and became tangled in a net of vines Anansi had prepared in the branches above. The more the leopard struggled, the more entangled he became. "My apologies again," Anansi said, wrapping more bindings around the furious cat. "But the sky god has requested your presence as well." Osibo's roars could be heard throughout the forest that night, but it made no difference. He was caught. 3 tasks complete. One final impossible task remained, the hardest of all. Let go of the day's worries now. They can wait until morning. Tonight, we rest with stories. Chapter 7. The Moesha. Let go of the day's worries now. They can wait until morning. Tonight, we rest with stories. The Moesha were not like other creatures. They were forest spirits, small as children, invisible to most eyes, capricious and easily offended. To see a Moesha clearly was to court madness. To anger one was to invite sorrow into your life for years to come. They lived in the deepest parts of the forest where even sunlight feared to go. Most people avoided speaking of them at all. To name them too often was to draw their attention. Anansi had no choice. This was the final task. He ventured to the oldest part of the forest, where the trees grew so close together their roots formed walls and their branches formed ceilings. The air smelled of mushrooms and decay and something older than age. He found a small clearing where he knew the Moesha sometimes played. There, Anansi carved a wooden doll from ironwood, human-shaped, child-sized, with a simple face and jointed limbs. He coated the entire doll in fresh gum from the rubber tree, sticky as hatred and twice as clingy. In the doll's wooden hands, he placed a calabash bowl filled with fufu, pounded yam, smooth and white and fragrant. Then he propped the doll against a tree, stepped back to admire his work, and hid himself in the undergrowth. He did not wait long. As twilight deepened to dusk, he heard them, high-pitched laughter like silver bells gone slightly wrong. 3 Moesha appeared in the clearing, or rather, the air shimmered and suggested their shapes. They looked like children, but not quite. Their proportions were slightly off. Their movements are too fluid. They spotted the doll immediately. "Look," one said. "A child. Here in our forest." "With food," said another. "Share your food, child," demanded the third, approaching the doll with its bowl of fufu. The doll, of course, said nothing. "How rude," the first Moesha said, offended. "We asked politely." Still, the doll remained silent, holding its bowl. "Give us the food," the second Moesha shouted, and slapped the doll's face. Its hand stuck fast in the gum. "Let go of me," it shrieked, and hit the doll with its other hand. That stuck too. The second Moesha tried to pull the first free, grabbing its shoulders, and became stuck itself. The third joined the struggle and met the same fate. Soon all three invisible forest spirits were glued to the gum-covered doll, writhing and cursing in their high, strange voices. Anansi emerged from hiding, wrapped the entire mass in his strongest silk, and carried it toward his collection. He now had all four impossible things: the hornets in their gourd, the python bound to its pole, the leopard tangled in vines, and the moesha stuck to their doll. It was time to return to the sky. Nearly done now, dear listener. Rest easy as we reach the end. Chapter 8. The Return to Nyame. Anansi made 4 trips up his sky thread, carrying each prize carefully to Nyame's palace. The hornets buzzed in their sealed gourd. The python hissed through his bindings. The leopard growled from his net. Moesha whispered curses against the doll. When all 4 stood before Nyame's throne, the sky god rose in astonishment. The celestial court fell absolutely silent. "Impossible," Nyame whispered. Then louder, "Impossible. No creature has ever, not the lion, not the elephant, not the mighty chiefs of earth, no one has ever brought me these 4 things." "And yet," Anansi said simply, "here they are." Nyame descended from his throne and circled the 4 prizes, examining each carefully. The hornets were indeed Momoboro. The python was indeed Onini. The leopard was indeed Osibo. And the shimmer around the gum-covered doll confirmed the presence of the moesha. Finally, Nyame turned to Anansi. When he spoke, his voice carried no mockery now, only respect. "Small spider, you have done what kingdoms could not do. You have accomplished the impossible through wit alone. Very well. A bargain is a bargain. The stories are yours." Nyame clapped his hands once. The golden chest appeared before them, ornate beyond description, humming with potential. When Nyame opened it, light poured out, not physical light, but the light of meaning itself. Every story that had ever been or would ever be swirled inside that chest like glowing smoke. "But know this," Nyame said solemnly. "These stories are no longer my stories. From this day forward, they shall be called Anansesem, the Spider Stories. Your name will be woven into every tale told. Every proverb is spoken. Every lesson learned. You wanted to be remembered? You shall be remembered for as long as people have mouths to speak and ears to hear." The stories flowed from the chest into Anansi, into his mind, his body, his very being. He became the living vessel of narrative itself. "But remember also," Nyame added, his voice taking on a warning tone, "stories are powerful. They can teach and they can deceive. They can heal and they can harm. They can build up and tear down. Carry them wisely, Anansi. You are their keeper now." Anansi bowed deeply, all 8 legs bending in genuine humility now. "I understand, great Nyame. I will bring them to the world." Chapter 9. Stories Come to Earth. Anansi descended his thread for the final time, carrying all the stories of the world inside him. When he reached the forest, he began to spin. Not webs for catching food, but webs for catching minds. Each strand contained a story. Each pattern held a lesson. He spun tales into the wind, and the wind carried them to every village, every hearth, every gathering place. The people learned to tell stories to their children at bedtime, teaching them about cleverness and courage, about foolishness and its consequences. They learned to tell stories to explain the stars and the rain and why the world was the way it was. They learned to tell stories about their ancestors, keeping the dead alive in memory. They learned to tell stories to make each other laugh during hard times. And always, Anansi appeared in these stories, sometimes wise, sometimes foolish, sometimes hero, sometimes villain, but always clever, always memorable, always there. The Akan people say that before Anansi, the nights were silent. After Anansi, every night bloomed with voices sharing tales. And this is why, to this day, stories are called Anansesem, the spider stories. Because a small creature with great determination climbed to heaven and brought back the very thing that makes us human, the ability to tell each other tales. And now, dear listener, as you prepare for sleep, epilogue. What the story means for you tonight. Remember that Anansi was not the strongest, not the largest, not the most powerful. He was simply clever, determined, and willing to try the impossible. Whatever mountains you face, whatever challenges seem too great, perhaps there is a thread you can spin, a climb you can make, a trick you can employ. Remember that stories themselves are treasures worth seeking. They connect us across time and space. They teach us who we are and who we might become. Every time you tell a story or listen to one, you participate in Anansi's gift to the world. And remember that sometimes the smallest among us can accomplish the greatest things, not through force, but through wit, patience, and the courage to climb toward the impossible. Sleep well. Dream of golden chests and spider silk. And tomorrow, perhaps, tell someone a story of your own. Good night. End of tale.